Hi everyone! Thank you for joining us for January 2022 Stampin' Class by Mail. I'm Brenda Cardinal of StampinTulip.Stampinup.net, and I'm excited for you to make your really fun cards featuring the Rainbow of Happiness bundle and coordinating Sunshine and Rainbows Designer Series paper, both by Stampin' Up. I've teamed up with another demonstrator, Gina Wieselman, who is also a member of my team, to offer these monthly classes by mail. This month, it's Gina's turn to show you how to make your cards, and next month, it'll be my turn. So stay tuned for a sneak peek of the cards I designed for February. Have fun making your cards, and now here's Gina.
Thanks, Brenda. I'm Gina Wieselman of MySweetPaper.com, and I can't wait to show you how to stamp and assemble your cards using the Rainbow of Happiness bundle from Stampin' Up's January to June 2022 mini catalog. We'll also be using a celebration item, the Sunshine and Rainbows 6x6 Designer Series paper, which you can earn for free with a $50 Stampin' Up order in January and February 2022. If you ordered a class by mail kit from either Brenda or me, you already have all of your paper and embellishments cut and ready to go. Just pull out the stamp set, ink pads, and a few other items shown here. If you didn't order a class by mail kit, go ahead and keep watching. Each card design will show you the parts and pieces with measurements that you need, so you can pause the video and prep everything for your cards. If you need to order any supplies or would like to learn more about becoming a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator or hosting an event, please reach out to either Brenda or me. Let's get started. Our first design is the You Make Me Happy banners card. If you ordered a class by mail kit, all the parts and pieces are cut to size and shipped right to your house. If you didn't order a kit, pause the video here and prep everything you need before you come back to stamp and assemble. The stamping for this card is very simple. We're just going to be using our Misty Moonlight ink pad. And the only stamping is for the greeting banner on the outside. So I'll take the stamp that says You Make Me Happy and go ahead and stamp that. With our stamping complete, we can go ahead and get started on assembly. We're going to be building our cards starting from this Misty Moonlight embossed cardstock piece, which I embossed using the gingham embossing folder. And we're going to layer up on this before we put anything on our card base, just to ensure that everything has a nice, neat edge along the left side. So to start with, we have this piece of basic white cardstock, which was cut using the Brilliant Rainbow dies. And I tried my best to position it so that the end of this rainbow was perfectly along the right side, but it looks like I need to do just a tiny bit of trimming here. There we go, just to even that out. We're going to build up this layer by adding the Designer Series paper right onto this piece. So I'll just take my Stampin' Seal for this. And I'm going to align it with the far right edge, which we just trimmed, and just leave a tiny bit of border underneath the rainbow die cuts. Okay. And next we're going to add this to the Misty Moonlight embossed cardstock. Now there is some extra here, and what I'm going to do is position this so that I get, again, another full rainbow. So you'll have a total of 7 rainbows across the front of the card. So as I'm adding my adhesive, I'm just going to keep that in mind so that I don't go all the way to the edge there. And then placement-wise, not super particular other than the placement of the rainbow. You can go higher or lower if you like. I'm maybe leaving about 1.5 inches or so from the tops of the rainbows to the top of the card. So I'm just trying to make sure that this is straight. Okay, looks good. And then right away, I'm going to grab my paper snips and trim the excess here. And if needed, I can come back and just round out that last little rainbow piece. Okay, next placement tip. So the reason that I cut this basic white piece a little bit long, you know, you're not gonna see any of this portion, but I found it was easier for me to line up this designer series paper by just putting it right next to that basic white. So I'm going to just apply some adhesive here. Oops. Okay. And then line up this piece of designer series paper with the bottom of my basic white and the left edge of the card. And next up, we will add this piece of designer series paper. I just love the pattern on this one, and I couldn't resist using it. And again, we're going to line up with the left edge and just run it across. You can decide how much of the rainbow portion you want showing and how much of the flirty flamingo design you want showing. There we go. And then as needed, you can trim any excess along the left side using your paper snips. It looks like I'm actually pretty happy with my placement. I don't see any of those layers showing through. Now we're ready to add this to our card base. So I'll just take my thick basic white cardstock, use my bone folder to get a nice crisp fold along that score line. And then again, I'm going to use the Stampin' seal to adhere this assembly. I always like to put a little bit extra adhesive when I am adhering something that's been embossed. I just always want to make sure that the edges stay nice and secure. While we have the card base, we're just going to add a little decorative element on the inside. So I'll just take this strip of designer series paper and I'm going to adhere that on the bottom inside of the card base so that I have equal borders on the left, right, and bottom. And I just like that that gives a little decorative touch on the inside so it's not just a completely blank card. Next, we're going to add the ribbon to the back of this You Make Me Happy banner. And I played around with different ways to adhere this, and there are a variety of possibilities. You could certainly use glue dots. In this case, since I have my Stampin' seal out, I'm just going to use some of that. So I'm putting 3 pieces on the left, right, and center. And then I'm going to just start and attach the ribbon. And then from there, I can actually kind of do it from the back. I'm not aiming for perfection here, so I'm just going to create a couple little swishes here. And I like how that looks. So I'll just come in with the paper snips and trim this tail. And then I'm going to adhere this to my card using the mini Stampin' dimensionals. So I'll grab a few of these. If you want to add a little extra security on the ribbon, you can always overlap the dimensional across the ribbon and the cardstock, and that just helps to ensure that it stays completely stuck. And then again, this I'm lining up on that left edge. And the final thing we need to add are these iridescent rhinestone basic gems. So there's 3 different sizes. There's a small, medium, and large, and I'm going to use one of each on this card. The large one is actually quite large, so I was able to just use my fingers to adhere that one just fine. For the small and medium ones, I often like to just use a tweezer. So I pick that up and slide it off the acetate sheet then apply good pressure. And I'm just going for kind of a random placement on this. And that is our first card design. Our second design is the Blue Rainbows design. And here are the parts and pieces for this card. Like usual, the first thing I'm going to do is my stamping. And for this card, we'll be using Bermuda Bay ink. So for the outside panel, I'm going to be using my basic white cardstock, and just note that this is the smaller of the two pieces. The larger piece will go on the inside of the card. And I'm just going to take my stamp that says "A little something to brighten your day," ink it up, and then I'm going to tuck that in the upper right corner. I'm going to pull out a piece of scrap paper, and then I'm right away going to fold my Bermuda Bay card base in half and use my bone folder for that crisp fold, because we're going to create a bit of a pattern on here using two stamps. So we'll be using this kind of dashed line rainbow and then the little hearts. And I found it worked pretty well to just come in with the rainbow first. And most of the middle will be covered up, so I'm not worrying about that. I noticed here my card isn't actually folded perfectly in half, so I want to make sure to correct that before I accidentally get some ink on the inside. There we go. Okay. And then I'll come back with my hearts, and I'm just going to add them here and there. And then lastly, I'm going to add a little decor to the envelope. I'm just going to put a little rainbow down in the corner. That is all of our stamping, so we can start assembling our card. Now, one quick note is that these 4 colors for the rainbow, with your kit, you got them in a variety of sizes. So the exact order of the colors isn't a super big deal as long as you have one of each: the Misty Moonlight, Pool Party, Bermuda Bay, and Soft Seafoam. The one thing that I did like is I liked alternating between the 2 darker colors and the 2 lighter colors. But of course you could use the different sizes and mix and match and do more of an ombre effect as well. I really don't think you can go wrong here. But I'm going to start with my biggest rainbow piece because there is some flexibility. I found it easiest to not try to line it up perfectly, and I went with a little bit hanging off on either end and then just trimmed it later. So I'm going to start with my largest piece and add some Stampin' Seal to that. Okay. And then in terms of placement here, I want it to be hanging off about the same amount on the bottom and the left side. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And we'll just come back and add the other 3 rainbow layers in much the same way. And as I position this, I just want to make sure that the amount of white showing between layers is approximately equivalent across the whole thing and from one layer to the next. And with that, with all 4 of our layers, I'll come back with my paper snips and trim from the back so that I have that perfect alignment. Now this piece is going to get layered on the Pool Party cardstock. So I'll again just use my Stampin' Seal And then this one, I decided it was kind of fun to actually just have the border on the top and right. So I'm going to square it up on the bottom and left sides before I apply my pressure. And then this assembly goes right onto the Bermuda Bay card base, which we already stamped. And for this, I am centering. I'm going to add my inner panel right away here. And I just used a little strip of designer series paper to add a little bit of decorative element. So I'll just run that maybe 1/8 of an inch from the bottom of the basic white. Just try to make sure that it is straight. And then trim the excess. And add that panel to the inside of the card. Okay, now the last element to add are these clouds, which I punched using the cloud punch. And I'm going to be using my Stampin' Dimensionals for this. I have my full-size ones here. Of course, the minis would work just fine, might take a couple extra. But I will peel up those release papers. And then in terms of placement here, what I want to do is just make sure that the full bottom of this cardstock is covered. So I'm going to position this accordingly. And then when I add this second one, you'll see there's going to be some overlap here along the right side. So when I apply my dimensionals, I just want to make sure that I don't get too far over to create any sort of strangeness where the overlap happens. So again, I'll just position so that that bottom is covered. And with our envelope, here's our second card design. Our third design is the Rainbow of Happiness Fun Fold. And here are the parts and pieces for this design. This design is actually pretty simple in terms of the supplies that you need, but the real wow factor comes in the stamping. So that is, of course, what we're going to start with. We're going to be using 4 different colors of ink here, and I'm going to start with Magenta Madness, which I'll use for the biggest portion of the rainbow. So I'll ink that up, and then I am aiming to center this. Next, I'll bring out my Bermuda Bay. And for this one, I'm going to be stamping the greeting, sending you a rainbow of happiness. And this will just go right in and serve as the next layer of our rainbow. Next is Mango Melody for the next layer. And finally, we have our Pool Party, and that is for the smallest layer. Now, I do want to note, if you aim for perfection on this, you're probably just going to get very frustrated. So you can see I have a little overlap with the greeting, and I think that's definitely fine because even in the designer series paper, it does have a little bit more whimsical of a design. It's not perfect, so don't waste your time and energy aiming for perfection because you probably won't achieve it. Now, I love these little rainbows so much that I just couldn't resist adding them to the inside of the card. So I'll do that in the lower corner. And I'm just going to do the 2 of them. You could also do all of the layers. You could use your solid rainbow for in place of the words and have it run off the page a little bit. So there's a variety of things that you can do with this. But just to show you another possibility, I'm going to pull my scratch paper back out, and on the side of the envelope, I'll do kind of a half rainbow. So I'll start with my magenta, then I'll use the Bermuda Bay, next the Mango Melody, and finally the Pool Party. And I think that makes for a very cute envelope. And now for the assembly, I'll take my Mango Melody card base, crease that along the score line, and then I'll just start layering this up. So I have the Designer Series paper for the front flap. So I'll add that first. Then I'll take this stamped basic white inner panel, open the card, and add that to the inside of the card base. I'll take my stamped outer greeting and adhere that to the Mango Melody cardstock, the rectangle right away. And just one note, this rectangle I cut from the card base, so you can actually get this full card out of a half sheet of cardstock. So it's a really efficient way to use your cardstock. And then of course, when I'm adhering this to the card, I want to make sure that I only apply adhesive to the left half so that I don't seal my card shut. Okay, and bringing back our stamped envelope, here is our third card design. Of course, one of the bonuses of participating in the Stampin' Class by Mail is that you get to see some additional sample card designs. One of my favorite ways to design new cards is to draw inspiration from existing designs. So the first one is very simple, but I just wanted to show you one of the sheets of Designer Series paper coordinates perfectly with our cloud punch. So what I decided to do here, and I actually haven't even glued it down yet, but I decided just to punch a couple of those clouds out and add them to this blue card. So you can see that's what this would look like. And I just love the coordination between that Designer Series paper and the cloud punch. So that was a really simple change. Changing it a little bit more, I just adjusted the color scheme. So exact same layout, everything is the exact same size, but I just wanted to go with the pink, orange, yellow kind of color scheme. And I love how bright and flashy this is. Once again, I started with the class card design and just modified the color scheme. And so here we have the pinks coming out again and being highlighted. So we have our Flirty Flamingo. I used the other color of ribbon from the Cotton Ribbon Combo Pack and some different patterns of the Designer Series paper, but essentially the same card, just a different color scheme. This Designer Series paper pack is just so great, and I loved this layout for being able to showcase a couple different designs of that paper. And this piece is cut using the Brilliant Rainbow dies, and I just think that adds a nice little element for the greeting panel. In another attempt to showcase the Designer Series paper, for this design I picked out 3 different patterns in the green-blue range, just cut rectangles of that, and oriented them at an angle so they were overlapping. I cut out the rainbow using the Brilliant Rainbow dies, and again just stamped a simple greeting, which I popped up using dimensionals. Something that I thought was really cool is the use of the negative image from the rainbow dies. So I used the cutout pieces on the previous design, and here I decided to make use of the negative, and with this wonderful designer series paper with a rainbow showing right through, this card was quick and simple, just adding a few layers that coincide with the colors in that rainbow paper. For this design, again, I wanted to showcase a designer series paper and the iridescent rhinestones. I did some stamping on the background to add a little texture here. And then I knew that I wanted the colorful rainbow to be on some sort of tag or label coming down from the top of the card. And I actually ended up using the Hippo and Friends dies. Now, I admit this die set was not one that attracted my attention right away, because I thought hippo, and there is a cute little hippo and unicorn, but you also get these other great shapes in this die set. So I find myself using these all the time, and it's a great option for greetings or adding decorative elements. And then finally, I wanted to showcase the designer series paper and use a fun fold. So this opens up like so. And it's really simple. This strip is actually just cut right from this side of the card. It's a 1-inch strip. And then I scored it again and tucked it behind before I adhered down the basic white and designer series paper. So it's really simple. One thing, this thank you greeting, I think would be really cute to go kind of in the center under the rainbow. I didn't end up doing that here, but I found that just repeating it a couple of times was really cute, and I think fits well with the way the rainbow pattern is repeated as well. I hope these additional samples help to inspire you to use your rainbow stamp set and supplies in some new ways. And thank you for taking the Stampin' class by mail. Here's Brenda with a few more things for you.
Thanks for showing us how to make those awesome cards, Gina. Make sure to follow the link in the email that shared this video with you for a specially curated Pinterest board that Gina and I put together with even more fun ideas of how you might use your supplies from this month's class. Next month, it's my turn to design and share the cards with you, and I'm excited to show you a sneak peek of the 3 card designs featuring the Heart and Home suite by Stampin' Up. This suite is found in the January to June 2022 mini catalog. It's considered a mega suite because it has 2 stamp set and die bundles. For February's class, we'll be focusing on the Blessings of Home bundle. The easiest way to take February's Stampin' class by mail is to order a class kit from either Gina or me. The kit includes cardstock cut and ready to go, embellishments, and envelopes, and we'll ship all of that right to your door. All you need to do is add a few additional supplies, including the stamp set, ink pads, and a few other items shown here. The registration deadline is February 5th, 2022. Be sure to check your email for class details, including a new bonus opportunity to earn a Stampin' Class by Mail card sampler kit with a qualifying Stampin' Up purchase made with either Gina or me. If you're not already on our email list, please contact either of us so we can share all the important class details with you. We'd love to get your feedback on our Stampin' Class by Mail. So send us an email with the subject line January 2022 Stampin' Class by Mail, and let us know what you liked about our video, and maybe some ways we might be able to improve it. And as a thank you for emailing, we'll send you a completed card with envelope from our stash if you include your mailing address in that email. Happy stamping, everyone. We'll see you next month.